Hello, and welcome back to my Christmas themed backdrop. It's for December, woohoo! And I'm going to do a video that's not Christmas themed at all. This is my November wrap up. Hey guys, so I am editing the video and I'm hearing the audio and it's really scratchy. And I think what happened was I forgot to plugged in my microphone and then realized that the webcam wasn't plugged in. So I think what is going on? Mascara on my eyelid. That's fantastic. Anyway, I think when I plugged in the webcam microphone overrode my actual microphone. So this video and the next 3 videos are all going to have similar audio, but I am aware of it and I'm going to make sure that doesn't happen next time. So sorry, it's nothing I can do at this point. I was getting this ready and I was like, all right, let's look at all the books I read in November. And I was like, oh, it was 2 books. I literally finished 2 books in the month of November. So to make myself feel better, I wrote down the page counts of all of these books. And the first one that I finished was Pachinko, which has 496 pages. And the second one I finished was The Diviners, which has 578 pages. And I read the library book. I listened to it. I didn't finish it though. I got 9 hours into a 12-hour library book. There's 317 pages in the print version. And I was like, I ran out of time. Anyway, we'll talk about it. But so I read or listened to 9 hours of that. And then Kingdom of Ash came out, this big honkin' behemoth. It doesn't look that big. I mean, it looks like a big book, don't get me wrong, but Pachinko looked bigger, and Pachinko was only 496 pages. And I was like, oh yeah, I was expecting to be like 500 or 600 pages. No, it is 980. Yeah, 980 pages. And I made it 700 of those pages into it in November. So I'm not going to be really talking about this one because it's going to get its own video, but yeah, I wanted credit for reading 700 pages of this. So I read maybe not as much as I normally do, but I still read a lot in November. It just didn't equate to a whole lot to talk about, which is fine, I mean, I still have a lot to say about the books that I read. My husband is like, so disappointed. Whatever, it's fine.
Never.
So anyway, okay, let's talk about the first book. So Pachinko is written by Min Jin Lee, and I have a whole video on it that you'll see probably in January. I pre-filmed it so it doesn't have this lovely background. So it'll have to wait till January after Christmas time, and it makes sense for this to not be there. Anyway, that video I gave like my breakdown and kind of my thoughts. This is a family epic that follows a family it starts in 1911 and the last chapter is set in 1989, I'm pretty sure. And this is a Korean family. The book starts in what is now South Korea. It wasn't South Korea at the time. It was just the southern half of Korea. And it starts out there, and the family eventually moves to Japan, and it takes them through World War I and World War II and the Korean War and all of the cultural things that go with that. And I had no idea about the history of Korea, like at all. In fact, if you had told me that 100 years ago, Korea was just one, I mean, not even, but when this starts, it was just one country, I'd have been like, that's news to me. I've literally never given it any thought. So the first half of this book, I loved. I thought the author did a great job of making it a fantastic historical novel that had a lot of really important family aspects. You got to see the culture.
You got to really know the members of this family and care about them. And then the second half of the book hits, and it all kind of falls apart. Like, the time setting doesn't matter at all. You could, other than to be like, things have progressed from where they were back when the book starts. Like, people aren't as uptight about like premarital sex and that sort of stuff. Like, the culture has kind of progressed, but beyond that, the time frame, this could literally be set any time that's not like, you know, prehistoric or medieval or something like that. But you could set this any time and it wouldn't matter. Like, and the book starts to follow a bunch of random people, and instead of just the family, so you have huge sections of the book where the main characters aren't even talked about. And the whole time you're like, well, what's going on with them? And they never really go back and cover it. It's just, and 5 years later, you go back to this person and you kind of have to just guess from, like, infer from where they are now, what kind of things have happened in their lives while we haven't been paying attention. And I didn't really appreciate that. The whole, it's supposed to be a family epic. So it's like, why am I getting 4 chapters on this woman who is married to a school friend of one of the family members, but they don't even like live in the same city. She is never mentioned again. You just get 4 chapters about her, or however many, and then she's like never mentioned again. And the guy she's married to is only mentioned like in passing the rest of the book. So it just was way too scattered. And so it didn't focus on the family, the ones you actually cared about. And there was no conclusion. No conclusion. I kept waiting for them to move back to Korea or to move to America, because they, like, that's mentioned, moving to California is mentioned several times throughout the book. Or them to, like, the family to all come back together. And I was waiting for some sort of conclusion to be like, here's where all of the tapestry was weaving to this one point, and here's how it all concluded. And it doesn't. The book just ends. And I was like, what? What was the point of that? I don't get it. Like, and I get that this is definitely not my type of book. Like, family epics, I've never read anything by Barbara Kingsolver. I've never read anything by Barbara Kingsolver, because this is the kind of thing that she writes, and I'm like, not my thing. So I feel like I'm probably being a little more harsh on this book than more harsh. The Peanut Gallery has informed me it's more harsh. I'm probably being more, that doesn't sound right. I'm pretty sure it's harsher.
It's really offensive.
I'm pretty sure it's harsher. Anyway, I'm being harder on this book than it probably deserves, but I felt this way and I was like, am I crazy? And then I went on Goodreads and there were a lot of people. I mean, a lot of people love this book all the way through. But then there were a lot of people that are like, basically, as soon as the focus of the story moves from the main woman to her kids, you can stop reading. And I totally agree with that. And normally you'd be like, stop reading halfway through the book, but then you miss the conclusion and the point of the book. There is no conclusion. The book just ends. So you might as well end it when it stops getting good, like when the book is no longer as good as it was. I don't know. This is a very well reviewed, very well rated book on Goodreads. And if they had just ended halfway through, I would absolutely agree with that. I hated the second part of this. It was a chore to get through. It was such a downer. I kept thinking, life will get better. That's the point of this. They're going to make something for themselves and life will get better. And it doesn't. And anyway, so that was book 1. On to the second book that I finished this month. Well, last month now, because it's December. The second book was The Diviners by Libba Bray. I did this one on audiobook, and you guys, it was quite possibly the best audiobook I've ever heard. I have my 2 favorite narrators. that I've talked about. There's Barbara Rosenblatt, who does the Amelia Peabody series, and she's phenomenal. Seriously phenomenal. And then there's George Goodell, who does the Cat Who series, who's also so good. January Lavoie, I can't even read my own writing. January Lavoie narrates this one, and easily as good as the other two narrators. I've never come across anyone I liked as much as them until now. So if this sounds like something you want to read, I highly recommend the audiobook for this. And again, I'm going to do this is a series. I think there's supposed to be 3. I should have looked that up. Anyway, once the series is done, I'll do a video on it and I'll reiterate that. But yeah, top notch, so good. So The Diviners is set in the 1920s in New York. It is I'm going to make up a term. We're going to call it a paranormal fantasy. So it's not fantasy in the terms of like fae and magic and like Lord of the Rings sort of a thing. You don't have like dwarves and gnomes and whatever. No vampires or werewolves, but it is the book is about this evil spirit that was trapped in a Ouija board, and it gets released and starts killing people in New York. And the more people it kills, it's trying to like manifest and bring about the end of the world. So, I mean, there is like supernatural magic, that sort of a thing. And people have like psychic abilities and that sort of stuff. So paranormal fantasy. And it is YA. The main character is 17 and most of the other characters are young. I don't really, generally speaking, like stuff that's like spiritual. It kind of freaks me out. It gives me the heebie-jeebies. I thought this was done really well. I went into this book. I got it because I was watching a bunch of videos of other booktubers, and they were talking about stuff they were going to read in October, and the whole theme was like spooky reads for, the month of Halloween. Well, I was behind the ball. I was seeing this like halfway through October, so I didn't get to it till November, but I was like, sure, it gets really, like, people really seem to like it a lot. I'll try it out. I loved it. I thought it was so good. My main my main critique is the main character is really obnoxious at times. Sometimes she's fine, and sometimes she like throws temper tantrums and cries, and you're like, that's right, she's 17. But the whole point is she grows by the end, and actually she like acknowledges what a terrible person she's been and grows. So it was actually really refreshing to see that. It was a little bit hard to get through, but then when you get on the other side, you're like, wow, that was actually really well done. I feel like they did the same thing in Harry Potter. I can't remember which book it is, but they spend one of like almost the entire middle section of one of the books where Ron and Harry are just being like pissy with each other, and they're mad at each other for like no reason at all. They're both imagining slights that the other one didn't intend, and I had a hard time getting through that as well. And I feel like this, you saw more actual growth afterwards. Like, she actually looked back and was like, I'm a terrible person. Maybe I shouldn't be this way. Whereas with Ron and Harry, they were kind of like, sorry, mate, I've been terrible to you, and like moved on. There wasn't actual like...
That's how dudes are.
Apparently that's how dudes are. So maybe it is more accurate. I don't know. Anyway, so that is my issue generally with YA, is there's a lot of like teenager nonsense that, as someone who's 35, I don't really appreciate reading. And this one, it didn't go on for a super long time. It definitely like crescendoed, and then it was over. So I saw a lot of people like complaining about how obnoxious she is, and I agree. There are definitely scenes where you're like, ugh. But it's intentional. And so I really like that. I also really like that there's not really any romance in this. Like, there's little hints of it. By the end, there's like 2 characters that are like, I kind of want to kiss you. And that's like the extent of it. And like I said, this is the first book in a series, so there's probably going to be more later on. But I'm married. I'm not, like, I'm 35. I don't need there to be like some sort of teeny bopper love triangle in every book. And there just wasn't in this. And I really appreciated that as well. The story is really, it's a good mystery. You're not sure exactly what all is going on. You don't know how they're going to like intervene and stop the end of the world. And the audiobook was phenomenal. So yeah, I really enjoyed this one. And I was not expecting to, because like I said, it was absolutely not my thing. The next book is the library book by Susan Orlean. And I did the audiobook, which is narrated by the author, which can either be great or terrible. One of the authors that I listen to, like one of the authors that I really like, he always narrates the audiobooks, but he's got a speech impediment. So it's really distracting when you're trying to listen to the story. She doesn't have a speech impediment, but it's like Ben Stein narrating the book.
Bueller.
She has like no intonation. She just drones, and you're like, I had to rewind so many times. I probably would have actually finished this book had anyone else been narrating it. But she just droned so much. I had to keep rewinding because I was like, I but like drifted off and have no idea what we're talking about anymore. The other thing is the actual writing of the book is super rambly. It's like stream of consciousness. If I walked up to someone and was like, tell me everything you know about libraries with a focus on the LA library and just speak for 12 hours. And some of the stuff is on topic, and some of the stuff you're like, what does this have to do with literally anything? Like, she has a couple of chapters where she talks about her mom's Alzheimer's, and it's like, what does this have to do with anything? And she kind of tortures the subject and stretches it and brings it back around to be like, oh, me writing about my mom taking me to the library is so that it's nice because those memories are preserved even though she doesn't remember them. And I'm like, well, I'm happy for you, but we just spent 2 chapters talking about your mom's dementia, which has literally nothing to do with the library. So there's just so much where like half an hour would go by and all of a sudden I'm like, wait a minute, I wasn't paying attention. How are we on this random topic? Like, what does this have to do with anything? So I don't know if I'm going to finish it. My library my checkout time expired before I finished the book. So when I heard about this book, I put a hold on like every format. And I was like, whatever I get first is what I get. So I put a hold on like the physical book, on the downloadable audiobook, on the CD version of the audiobook, on the ebook. And I thought I had canceled my hold on all the other ones once I got the audiobook. It turns out that I still have a hold on the ebook, and I'm like, there's like 2 people ahead of me. So I might just download it and finish it because I'm 3/4 of the way through the book. But at the same time, I was like relieved to have a legitimate reason to stop listening to the book. I was like, oh, can't listen to it anymore because it got like automatically returned to the library. Oh, well. So I don't know. It's a really popular book and I'm just like, I don't get it. And maybe I would have felt differently if someone else was narrating it so that it was just more interesting, period. But I feel like she's already got some like dry material and then she drones on while reading it and it's just, it's bad. It's bad. So if that is something you want to read, stay away from the audiobook, whatever you do. Yeah. And then, like I said, the last book was this wonderful, frustrating, tear-jerking thrill ride of a book. You can see I have 112 pages left. This is how tiny the pages are. The paper is so thin that is 112 pages. You can literally like read through the pages if you hold them up to the light. It's like Bible paper. So, yeah, that's what I read in December. Nope, it's December now. That's what I read in November. Oh, off topic, but I'm going to be doing Vlogmas this year. And because, so I only really started watching YouTube in like March. So I had heard of Vlogmas, but I didn't really know what it was. So I just Googled a bunch of like Vlogmas videos and kind of got the impression that it was 12 days for whatever reason. I don't know where that came from, but apparently it's 24. I am not doing 24. I am not that committed. I don't have that much going on in my life to legitimately be able to put 24 videos up. No one needs to watch 24 hours of me just watching YouTube videos on my couch. So I'm going to be doing 12 days. I haven't decided yet if I'm going to have them end on Christmas Eve or on Christmas Day. So depending on when I start, I'll either be, or depending on what I decide, I will either start on the 12th. Am I doing this math right? Yes, the 12th or the 13th, depending on, I don't know. I might just flip a coin. Anyway, so look forward to that. I have 9 actual videos that I'm going to be doing as well this month. So you're still going to be getting just normal content, but you'll also be getting Vlogmas in the middle of the month. So I hope you'll stay tuned for that. If you want to make sure you don't miss it, make sure to subscribe before you leave. If you liked this video, make sure to give it a thumbs up before you leave. And until next time, happy reading. Family epic. Cat's deciding to sharpen his claws on the dining room chair. Oh my gosh. She's got a name. King Solver. What is her name? I was gonna say she's got a name that sounds like a dude, but King Solver, Barbara King Solver. I have to pose for thumbnails, I learned. So I make that ridiculous. Nothing! Okay, I'm just gonna call it good there.